You're supposed to charge
And
money.
like the patient is supposed to pay the doctor.
That's right. That's right. That is the
So,
system
right.
from that time. Ramban says, why is it that way? So he says, people who are on a very, very high madrega once could go to their local Orthodox Navi, okay, and say, why is this happening? And he'll tell you exactly what has to be fixed. But even then you'd have to go to a doctor. So you could say, oh, it's about, let's say a person didn't give tzedakah, so they would give tzedakah. But if their hand is hurting because they didn't give tzedakah, they would still have to go to the orthopedic surgeon. So the question is, why? Why is this? So the answer there is Hashem created a world in which we have to reach Him through His concealment. It says in Torah, indeed you're hidden, God. Why is this? So I'm going to give you an example that has nothing to do with illness. It has to do with the two Batei Mikdash. The first Beis HaMikdash had continual miracles. 10 continual miracles every day. 365 days a year. You're not so busy. You can go down to the Beis HaMikdash and see a miracle. Could you imagine this with kids? I already saw them, but what's it? Okay. So every single day. And the second Beis HaMikdash had none of these miracles. And not only that, the Aron Kodesh had to be hidden and was not put back. So when the Kohen Gadol went into the Kodesh Kedoshim one time a year, there's nothing there. Just a platform where the Aron once was. But it says in Navi that the second Beis HaMikdash was greater than the first one.
Second one.
The second one was greater than the first one. The question is why? What's the
opposite?
That's what we would think. We would think the opposite. But it says in the Pasuk that this bayit is greater than the other one. So there are two answers. One is it lasted longer, 10 years longer. But the other answer is it's a higher madrega to find Hashem when He's hidden than it is to find Him when He's revealed.
It's beautiful.
It's a higher madrega. And that was the Gadlut Bayit Sheni. So there's a famous story about the Ger Tzedek Avraham ben Avraham. Do you all know the story?
Wait, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So you're saying that even during the time of the second Beit HaMikdash, Hashem was still hidden?
Compared to the first Beit HaMikdash, not compared to now. Yeah.
So it's now a holier time because it's so hidden?
So now anything you could accomplish now has much more value than doing the same thing in the time of the Beit HaMikdash.
Wow.
And anything for the person who's lo aleinu ill does, when they're in the place of suffering, they don't know why this is happening, but they still say a bracha, it has far more value than the bracha of the greatest tzaddik. So there's the famous story, at least in some circles, about Avraham ben Avraham the Ger Tzedek. So this story took place a little over 200 years ago. More than that. Around 250 years ago. So in one of the ruling families in Poland then was a family called Potocki. And when I was in Poland, I actually saw their palace. They had several palaces throughout Poland. They maintained their status as a royal family until the Holocaust.
Wow.
So it was for hundreds of years. They were like the nobility. So 250 years ago, times were different. So children didn't go to school. They were tutored at home, certainly the royal children. So one of the Potocki sons had a tutor, and this tutor was a descendant of Marranos, Jews from Spain who acted as though they converted, but didn't really believe in anything.
Is that collectively allowed, by the way?
No.
You're not allowed to fake convert to save your life.
No, you're not allowed to fake convert to save your life, but we can't judge people who are under such stress.
No, I'm just curious that I wasn't sure for
they did the
myself,
wrong
right?
thing.
No, you're not.
That's why you see all of the Sfaradim from Morocco, they're the ones who didn't do that. Every single person, anyone Toledano, Buzolko, any of those. All of the Moroccans, they're all descendants of people who didn't choose to fake convert. It's a big thing. So in any case, that was his tutor. And the child felt he doesn't really believe what he's saying when he teaches me the New Testament. He felt this, the man didn't say that, but he felt it. So when he got older, he was very bright, he began to investigate, reading about different religions, and he came to the conclusion that the only truth there is in the Torah. That Christianity says, this is true, and then Islam says, this is true, and then, but the core of it all is the Torah. So he decided to convert to Judaism. Now, in Poland, 250 years ago, was that a good idea? No. So what, not if you want to live and see the next day. So what did he do? He told his father that he wants to go study in Paris, which was then the cultural center of the world. And his father sent him there with like unlimited funds. So he hired somebody to send word back to Poland. He was killed in a boating accident, and that his body couldn't be retrieved. So his family would mourn him as though he's dead, and then he could quietly go and convert. So he did that. He converted in Paris. But in those days, Jewish learning was in Eastern Europe. So after an amount of time had passed, he decided he's going to go to Eastern Europe. He wants to learn. And he got there. He eventually got to the Vilna Gaon and became a Talmud of the Vilna Gaon. But eventually he was betrayed. Somebody recognized him. And he was sure he'd never be recognized. He looked, so much time had passed, and he looked so different. But someone did recognize him. And word got back to the palace, and he was arrested. And they brought the most charismatic, most well-spoken priests to try to bring him back to Christianity. Didn't succeed. Here's the part of the story that's important for our purposes. The Vilna Gaon sent him a letter. He had to pay bribery money to get the letter into the prison where he was held. It said, I can get you out of here through Kabbalah, but it requires your consent. And he sent him back a letter, and he said, I won't give you my consent, because Hashem wants us to play by the rules. Okay. And he wouldn't, and he wasn't released, and in the end he was killed al Kiddush Hashem. And he wrote back that he would never trade that experience of dying al Kiddush Hashem for anything. And the Vilna Gaon thought in the end that he was right, and he ordered his people that when he dies, he wants to be buried right next to this Ger Tzedek.
Wow.
And that's where the Vilna Gaon is buried. When you go to the Vilna Gaon's tomb,
Wow.
you were there,
Wow.
so that's right next to the Ger Tzedek. So what does the story tell you? Anything you do,
Poland? I'm sorry, that's buried in Poland?
Vilna.
no,
Vilna.
it's Vilna, but the borders of these countries changed. So Vilna was once in Poland, then it was in Lithuania, then
Okay.
it was in Russia, now it's back in Lithuania.
Okay.
Okay. If I sneeze, who knows where it'll be? I'm saying anything that you do when Hashem is concealed is far more value than the same act done when everything is clear and everything is easy. So when a person is suffering, that's what's happening. Every single deed a person does from that place, a bracha you say on grapes, whatever it is. So your merits, when you do this and have faith, you could be saving a whole city from a terrorist attack.
Wow.
You have no idea what's being accomplished. So the chizuk that we get from when seeing someone suffer is recognizing that there's purposefulness there, which we don't always know. But at the same time, that Hashem could do whatever He wants. So when people use words to label a situation as end stage or bad or hopeless or whatever, that's just what they see at the moment. But nobody knows what the truth will be next. So I have a closer relative, closer than my granddaughter's father-in-law, that's whatever, a closer relative, my daughter-in-law's brother. So his wife was expecting, and they did a skirat marachot. They do this test where they see what's going on inside the baby, and they recommended abortion. They told them, she was just, I don't remember what month she was in, she said this baby won't survive even a minute. the lungs aren't developed, and this isn't, and this is wrong, and that's wrong, and spinal bifida, and whatever. Said, what's the point of carrying the baby since the baby can't survive, not even 1 minute? And they didn't know what to do with this. They didn't know what to do with this. The doctors weren't making this up. This is what they saw on the scan. But the husband's a very big Balamon, he said, this is what they see, but we don't know what the end of the story will be. So he went to Uman, and he davened his heart out. And when he came back, he was sure of their decision, we're not doing an abortion. And the child was valedictorian of her class in elementary school, and is,
Wow.
and she does have, like, there is something wrong. She walks funny, she needs a brace, but that's like, she's alive and the valedictorian of her class, and they weren't lying. This is what they saw. But things could change at any time. So bitachon doesn't mean that you're sure things will be exactly as you ordered. Hashem's not your employee. But you have to know that anything can change. So tefillot are very valuable. And nobody knows that, nobody has any idea of the value of tefillah. We don't have any way of measuring it. And the shortest tefillah in the whole Chumash was what?
5 words.
5 words. Kel na refa na la.
Yeah.
Who said that? Moshe.
Moshe Rabbeinu.
When did he say that? When
Miriam.
had Sarat. Sarat was, in her case, something that she needed to have. It was because she spoke Lashon Hara, right?
Yeah.
But still the Tehillim helped, still the Tefillah helped. Hashem could have answered, what? She has Sarat because she spoke Lashon Hara. What are you being mitarev? Okay. But the Tefillah changed things, and Tefillah could always change things. And sometimes we see it right away, and sometimes we see it only later. So you have Rachel Imenu. So all of the Avot Olam came before Hashem when the Jews were being expelled from Eretz Yisrael in the first Galut, and they all said, Hashem, please don't do this. And Hashem said, but they do Avodah Zarah, Shvichut Damim, Gili Arayot. They have to rediscover themselves. It doesn't make sense to leave them there. They're digging their hole deeper and deeper. When it was Rachel's turn, you know what she told Hashem? It doesn't have to make sense. You could have Rachamim without it making sense. Did it make sense for me to give Leah the Simanim? No. I did it out of compassion. It doesn't have to make sense. This is an important thing to know. Then, when she said it doesn't have to make sense, you know what Hashem answered her? Vishavu banim ligvulam. They're going to come back. They have to go out now, but they're going to come back. It's going to work out as you said. And they didn't come back the next day, and they didn't come back the day after. But they came back. They came back to build Bayit Sheni. Then we came back again, when? In 1948. Okay, so the promise is kept. It may not be kept exactly as you think, when you think, but the promise is kept. And we can't, and all of the predictions have no value in the face of tefillah, in the face of promises.
That's what I was saying with exactly with the merit that we did in Mitzrayim when we put that blood on our door. That merit, that it's there because we had to do all this emunah to do that.
Right.
And like it doesn't matter even if it was thousands of years ago, like
That's
our
right.
soul was there, and
Exactly.
it doesn't matter. And
That's right.
to invoke
exactly
that in
right.
Hashem.
Exactly right. So the difference between a sin and a mitzvah is they both have consequences. But the consequence of a sin is only so far. It's compared to a blanket that when a person stands up, the blankets fall off. But the mitzvah is the blanket. The mitzvah lasts forever. So the Mesirut Nefesh in Mitzrayim, when they put the blood on the door, the women in Mitzrayim, they had children in Mitzrayim. Do you know how crazy that is? It would be like having a child in Auschwitz.
Yeah, literally.
And they had children, and they had a lot of children, and they did outstanding efforts to make themselves have children.
The women.
The women. So there's great zchut to be involved. And the more tefillah we do, the more we take on ourselves to see what's good in us, the way we see ourselves. Okay, we see ourselves, it says, Amcha kulam tzadikim. Now you could think, Amcha kulam tzadikim. What about this one? What about that one? Maybe the time that didn't know my downstairs neighbor. Whatever. I have a good downstairs neighbor, but let's say. Okay, so what does it mean, Amcha kulam tzadikim? We all do averos. How do we know we all do averos? Because it says, there's no tzaddik in the world. What? What's the end of the sentence? Okay, that's right. Who does good and does no bad? We all do averos. What do you mean, kulam tzaddikim? To say af echad lo tzaddik? No, all of the averos are on the outside of who we are. In the inside, kulam tzaddikim. On the outside, we're not all tzaddikim, but in the inside, we are. So the more we can invoke the tzidkus of Am Yisrael, the more we draw down their merit. And
The merit of
the merit of Am Yisrael, the people who put blood on the doorstep, the people who had children in Mitzrayim, the people who, Avraham, Yitzchak, all of them, their merit is still as though it happened yesterday. And the more we choose to see them, when we look at each other, the more visible it becomes. So, the ultimate thing that we want isn't just the refuah of one person. What we want is what?
Mashiach.
We want Mashiach. We want Mashiach. And Mashiach is, there's nobody in the serious thinkers in the Jewish world, of the great Rabbanim, there's nobody who thinks Mashiach's not around the corner. There's not even one who says, oh, well, you're exaggerating. Everybody thinks that. So when we're davening, we have to say we want this, and we want the ultimate salvation, and b'schus the emunah, and the will for goodness. What you want, it says this in Nesivat Yesharim, that when a person's intent is good, it's as though they did good.
Mm-hmm.
And when a person, we all do things wrong in our lives, right? So it says, Akirata Ratzon Akirata Maseh. If you no longer want to be the person who's covered by all those blankets, yeah? It's in Hashem's eyes as though you tossed them off already. So we have to have the Akirata Ratzon to bad, and the Ratzon to only to see good in each other, and Emun in Hashem, that everything could be turned around from this to that in a second, as we've seen many, many times.
Amen, amen.
It's not like we haven't seen it. We've seen it more than once, more than twice. Yeah?
Do you have any miracle stories you can share?
So, miracles, that's why I tried to keep it to miracles that we've all seen. The fact that we're here is like, of any one of us here. The fact that any one of us is here, in this house, in Har Nov, is that a miracle or not?
Can.
It's a miracle. What are you talking about? And that the miracle of your being here makes the miracle of somebody who, like, let's say, I actually knew somebody, my children's mitzapelet, such a wonderful woman. It was Chanal, probably. Her husband was in a plane crash, and he was the only survivor. Could you imagine this?
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So people say, what?
Where would you
In
think that?
Venezuela.
Wow.
Okay. So people here say that that's a miracle. I say the miracle of our being here is a much bigger miracle. Okay, the statistical odds of so many people, everyone with their own story, okay, being in this room right now, that's a much bigger miracle than somebody surviving an air crash. It's I mean, people say, I don't know if I have time this week, maybe I'll go to the hotel, maybe I'll wait till next week. That's not a miracle? Could you imagine somebody saying that 100 years ago? It just, like, you sit, like, I'm sure some of you saw the films of the Siyum Hashas. You've all seen this? That's not, they had these huge events in Israel and in America, in South America, in Australia, because the men who do Daf Yomi completed the cycle. Okay, so, what? So you see these, do you know how crazy that is? In the one in America, I saw the film of the one in America. It took place in this big arena, it's a sports arena called MetLife. Now because it's an arena, it has all of the seats, right, all around, bleachers, but they have this big playing field. So the organizers had to figure out, what are you going to do with the playing field? So they had in the middle, they have the days with all the important Rabbanim. And then you know what they did with the rest of the space? They had a big place for Holocaust survivors. So, do you think any of these Holocaust survivors thought they would see this, a Siyum Hashas with 93,000 people? Did any of them think that they would see such a thing? And around the Holocaust survivors, what did they have? Children from the schools. That's not a miracle? Okay, so we see miracles all of the time. Who could have imagined this? So my halacha teacher, when I went to seminary, was a man called Rav Halberstadt. So he came to Israel right after the war. He had nobody, and he sort of attached himself to the Panovich Rosh Yeshiva. To the Panovich Rav, excuse me. Now the Rav had this vision. He wanted to build, did any of you ever see the building of Panovich Yeshiva on the hill?
Yeah.
Big building. So he had an architect design it then. We're talking about the early 50s. So our halacha teacher, became the Rav's driver, and he would take him to different wealthy people in Tel Aviv, elsewhere. He'd show him the architect design. So at that time, maybe 500 people in the whole country were studying Torah full time.
Wow.
So he would show this architect's design for the use base, midrash, and they thought, Mashu Zazlo. He lost his family, he lost his community. It was out of Rahmanis, they would give him money. But nobody thought that there would ever be something like that. Nobody. They thought he was crazy. And they build expansions of the yeshiva. There are miracles all the time, like constant miracles. There are miracles involving people physically, where you meet people who the doctors predict one thing and something completely different happens. You can go on Eisha Torah's website. They have interviews with a man whose name is Rachamim Kohen Melamed. Did any of you ever see this? Mm-hmm. So he was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, which is a terrible illness. It's the brain stops being able to communicate with the body. The body can't hear the brain signals.
Wow.
So even though technically everything should work, the muscles are there, the skeleton's there, but the person loses all of their abilities. Mm-hmm. So when he was diagnosed with this, he asked the doctor, what's the story? So he said it comes in two different ways. Sometimes the inner organs lose the ability to receive from the brain, and a person dies very soon. And sometimes it goes from the outside in, and it could take as much as 8 years. So he started making these film interviews way after that, 20 years after that. He'd gone through 10 different doctors. They all died in the course of the years, but he was still alive. And at the end of his life, what he did, he was very disabled from his illness, but he would encourage young people to come to his home so he can give them faith. Kids who feel like their life has no value, on drugs, whatever. He would encourage them. He said, every day is a gift. Every day is important. Don't be indulged with even a little bit of time. He would say this. He had lost the ability to speak. He, together with computer experts, made a program which they use now for people very frequently, where through moving his eyes, the computer would give forth ultraviolet light, and it would break the stream. So he wrote 8 books like that.
Wow.
So why am I telling you this story rather than the kind of miracles we're like, wow, and the person, Because everything we see is a miracle, and the goal is to see Hashem in real life, in your being here. Okay, it says in Chovot HaLevavot that there are 3 thoughts that you could have every day. 3 thoughts make every day like a ladder. You get higher and higher. What are the thoughts? So you can go remember Kriyat Yam Suf. No, Kriyat Yam Suf doesn't happen every day. What should you remember? The sun shined this morning. Isn't that amazing? People go where they want to go. They get where they want to get to. It's nice. There's sun. Okay. You paid dues for your sunshine today? I don't know about that. Whatever. Okay. What?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Texas for that.
The next thing to remember is that life has an end. Every day is a gift. Every day is a gift. You paid your being alive dues yet? No. And the last thing to remember is everything is a process. Everything is a process. The same way you could look at a tree, and do you see the tree grow? You're sitting like this and you're watching the tree. Do you see it grow? No. But the things that Hashem puts in front of us are what give us the opportunity to grow. And the process is slow, and we don't always understand why things are happening. As I said, Dafka, in a place of concealment, everything you do has so much power that Be'ezrat Hashem, when you recover, you look back in this. You say, this wasn't a waste of time. This was a time when I really brought Hashem into everything.
Amen.
Okay.